Hello and welcome to Bringing Education Home. I'm Herb.
And I'm Christina. And together we bring you experts and ideas to help you grow happy, healthy, successful families that are both inside.
And outside the box. If you like the show, be sure to follow Christina on Facebook.
And please leave us a like, review, and comment on your favorite podcast platform.
Helen Panos is an accomplished educator with over 25 years experience in public schools. She began Dynamis Learning 8 years ago, which is a K-12 nationwide tutoring, SAT, ACT prep, college application assistance, essay writing, and academic planning company. With Helen's depths of expertise, she is able to provide personalized support and solutions for academic success. She has up to 20 tutors on staff, and these educators have various specialties. Currently, the company is 90% virtual nationwide. However, tutors can meet a child at their home or library in the metro Atlanta area as needed. Welcome, Helen. It is a pleasure to talk to you. As a married to an educator, I know how much fun that can be. So welcome to the show. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you guys asking me to be on.
You're so very welcome. And I'm glad you're here because one of the ways we met was I was on Helen's podcast. So eventually we'll get to that too, say that. So you can find us from me on her podcast and then her on our podcast, and just, really following along and figuring out, what does this education thing mean? How can we really help our children and make sure we're giving them the best that they can get? So tell us a little bit about the passion. We know you were in education, but why then did it turn into tutoring? Tell us the reason why this is all happening.
Oh, that's a good one. So around my 17th year, I have 25 years in the public school system. And 3 of those were actually in the back office. I'd been promoted to a 504 chair and a gifted lead. But I was already doing the gifted lead actually while I was teaching. You know how that goes. Being an educator, you do extra jobs and get paid extra money, but there's no time.
Yes.
Well, it all started really when they started really enforcing the testing as being the be all of everything. And so I said to myself, well, this is not really how kids should be learning, and this is not how they're going to learn. So I decided then, I was actually filling in for one of my educator friends who retired, and she was doing a gig with a young man out of private school. And she was going there every day. And this private school here in Atlanta is very, high in advance. So there were 2 doctors, and they wanted somebody to pick them up from where the bus or the shuttle would drop them off and then take them home. They're busy. So we would work with him for 2-3 hours. And so I filled in for her one time when she was going on her retirement cruise. And I said, wow, what could it be like if I then multiplied myself multiple times and scaled it? So I was already thinking scaling the business immediately. So that's really coupled with the fact that the school system started putting so much emphasis on testing alone, that made me feel like, well, there's a lot of kids being left behind. So I need to start my own tutoring business, and I can pick some really great tutors to assist me with that.
Yeah.
So in our pre-conversation, Christina said I might lead you down rabbit holes, and that one just threw up a big rabbit hole for me right off the bat. So part of the reason we got into helping parents start to homeschool is that whole testing. So it's not just that they put the emphasis on testing, as they started teaching to the testing, and they stopped trying to educate the children. So it's like they're not trying to get them caught up. They're not trying to help them learn how to learn. All they're trying to do is get them to pass tests so that they can get their funding, so that they can, hey, I get this grade, and that the schools can keep working. But what happens is, because they have to be on this page on this day to get to this test, they're teaching to the tests. And if a child gets behind even a little bit on any subject, the teachers with the class sizes nowadays, they don't have time to come back and help the kids get caught up. So as soon as a kid gets behind even a little bit, then they get more and more and more and more behind, and it gets more and more and more frustrating, which is kind of why we started doing what we do. And so
1000% correct what you just
said. So for tutoring, if you do get behind, the only way to get caught up is outside of the school system. And we just want to take that one step further and take the kids out of the school system completely. but that is not an option for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so what you do, I can see is very needed. And so is that how parents start coming to you, is because
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I do look at test scores. I'll ask them to look at them because in a way test scores are good. They're one part of the picture, right? But not the picture. Because that's a snapshot of that day, those hours. What if the child's not feeling well that day? Or, it could be test anxiety. I used to have test anxiety. I remember that when I took the SAT. And back then it wasn't like it is today. I just took it one time. And I remember looking around and going, God, am I going to get this done? It seems like everybody else is finishing before me. So we do SAT and ACT prep too. So I understand the 3-hour long test, and there is a lot more anxiety today. So I even help kids get in if they have to get a 504 plan, if they have some type of medical diagnosis, because parents may not know about the Section 504 plan under the Americans with Disabilities Act. So I was a 504 chair as well. So all of my experiences I've put into my company in helping families progress if they're going to stay in public school or even in private. We do a lot in private. We've done homeschool kids as well, because I've been in a homeschool conference before and I spoke there. So so obviously a parent can't necessarily, there's pros and cons to everything, I think. But like you said, I mean, a lot of parents did go to homeschooling or because of the virtual component during COVID. And I think they saw that they could do it if their jobs allow them to. I know my niece was homeschooled. She was actually a hybrid kind of thing where my sister-in-law did the homeschooling and then she also went in twice a week to a school. So, but yeah, that parent has to be very committed. Probably can't really have a full-time job. That's really, stressful maybe, or they just have to be able to be very organized and and put it into action, because there is a lot to teach, whether you're in public or private or homeschooling. And I just think, yeah, you're 100% correct on, I don't feel like the test is fine, but I don't feel like the emphasis should be so much on the test. And that's how they kind of came out striking pretty quickly. And if you recall, I don't know, here in Georgia, at least, they went to the TEKS evaluation for teachers. And at that time, they really thought they were going to have this component in there. And they tried it one time and then it didn't work. They were going to have the kids evaluate us as well. And they had, and it was such a chaotic mess that they had to rotate. You couldn't be in there while they were doing you, right? They were evaluating you on the computer. So somebody else would have to come fill in. So who was that going to be? Teachers are with their classes, right? So you have very limited staff to do that. So then they would have to try to rotate the counselors in there to do it. And it was just, they threw that out the window pretty quickly, because first of all, kids will say anything in there probably about their teachers. And then I just, it wasn't, whoever came up with that idea, it sounded good on paper, I guess, but physically and to actually execute it was a nightmare.
Exactly.
So that was all the emphasis of testing. That's how it all started.
Yeah. Yeah. So many of the things in the public school are like that. It sounds good on paper. They think they can implement it, but when they forget to include the teachers in the process, and like, hey, look at these logistics, that's not going to work quite the way you think it is, then yeah, we can go down a whole rabbit hole there. One thing I wanted to ask you though, is that whenever a parent decides that tutoring might be a good idea for their student, let's say it's a student that's behind where they are academically, and they think, oh, well, I only want to do it one time a week. Is that, I mean, it always helps, but what do you find is your sweet spot? How many times a week tutoring really gives that child a chance to catch up? Because one time a week is absolutely going to help, but what's that sweet spot? How many times a week should they possibly be considering?
I think it depends on the child. If they're really behind, like I think I got a call just recently where the child was 2 years behind in reading and they're already, I think, an 8th grader. And that is like, woo, a big, red alarm to me. So somebody like that probably could help actually do 5 times a week, to be honest. Because the longer you wait, if the problem has compounded, and this is what parents do, they wait, they think it's going to fix itself, and then it doesn't, because they don't know if there's a disability or not, or something else, or there's gaps. Like we were helping a kid up in North Fulton here in Atlanta, and kindergarten year was probably the COVID year for the kid. First grade, the teacher loved him so much because he was so cute. The mom was telling me, and then they were having problems with the next teacher being there or not being there. So he got the grunt of all that.
Yeah.
And so now my tutor out of Alabama actually virtually is tutoring him, and I picked up on the fact he had gaps. She was trying to hire me to come in and get him in a gifted program, actually. And I said, I don't think so. So I think
let's get the basics down first.
So so then she worked with him. She's been working with him for several months, and they're doing it this summer too, actually. So there's definitely been improvement. And he just probably needed some one-on-one. But to answer your question, I think it depends on the situation. Reading tends to take a little bit longer, but sometimes even math. I mean, we're working with a child who's he's a rising 10th grader. He's in the top school in the country. It's a STEM school here in Gwinnett County in Atlanta. And he's probably a little bit over his head. I'm not even exactly sure how he got in that school, because I think you have to be asked to be in it. Sometimes I don't know how some of these kids get in. So, anyway, so she finally point blank asked my tutor, well, do you think I should put him back in the neighboring school? And my tutor says, do you want my parent answer or do you want my teacher answer? And she said, maybe both. And so they had a 45-minute conversation as to why my tutor felt he needs to go back to his neighboring school. Because my tutor has worked with him multiple times on factoring, and either there's an executive functioning issue there or something else is going on, because any kid that's just a little bit slow with repetition, they're going to get it. But if there's some hidden thing that none of us know about yet, and that it's got to be evaluated, that's going to affect how quickly a child's going to pick up on something. Typically, we do 1 time a week. We do some 2 times a week as well. If the kid is failing and has come to us halfway through the semester and we only have like 9 weeks to get him back up to a passing grade, then we've even done one that was a 4.0 French. She got herself in on a virtual thing. She totally shut down. She wasn't doing anything. She was failing it. And I get the call in the middle of November, right before Thanksgiving, and all this work, all these modules, all these tests she had to do were due December 9th. We only had about 3 weeks to get it together. We got her all the way to a B from like 30. But she was tutoring every day, maybe a couple hours a day. To get it done. So it really depends how early we start, how far back are they, how many gaps are there. The consistency is definitely key. So that's why depends on how far behind they are. And if they want to advance, because we also tutor to advanced kids.
Correct.
And we're doing that with a couple of them right now, actually.
Totally makes sense. Yeah. And one of the things that, I wanted to talk about a little bit is that consistency really is. But then the other thing that you mentioned was that if you wait too long, and, that's a horrible way to say it, but if you don't jump on your gut feelings right away and get your child the help they need sooner than later, then that's another thing that really, really plays into all of this, is because their confidence goes down, because then the tutor or the teacher has to spend time building up their confidence again. You can do this. This isn't as hard as you think it is, or as hard as it is in your head because you've been failing for so long. So really making sure that you're taking that proactive approach instead of waiting until it's desperate.
Because if they haven't liked math in a long time, then you've got to work on that too. So that's why when people tell me, tutoring is going to be taken over by AI, I go, I don't think so. No, because you can't really keep using all of it, what AI has. And in fact, I got to deal with one right now that actually did use AI the other day with my tutor, and we caught him, but he's not admitting it. So I have to deal with that. That's my first time having to deal with that. But I'll save him from being thrown into ISS or whatever, or out of school suspension when he does it in school. So I will take care of it in the next couple of days. But so I think, AI is fine. It's another tool. It can help you if you get stuck in your mind about what should you say. but you need to write it in your own words because it's not like a teacher can't understand that a computer is probably writing this for you. And there
Exactly.
are, just like you have Turnitin, where
Uh-huh.
you submit papers to see where the plagiarism occurred, and high schools are using that. Well, there's that tool for AI as well. So
Yep.
if they're using AI, anybody can detect that, because I hear Amazon's doing that with books. It's not a perfect tool yet, but they're probably going to improve
getting
on
there.
that.
Yeah.
So either way, it's just cheating. It's not your work.
Let's
So
make sure you're doing the work. Exactly. Putting your thought, your time, your messages in there. Yeah, absolutely. Now a few words about vibrant family education.
How many entrepreneurs and business owners start out on this journey to make a better life for their family, only to find that it took so much more time and effort than they were expecting that they had even less time for their family? I know I did.
At Vibrant Family Education, we want to help you reach your family goals while you're still building towards your business goals. We do this by bringing you the third leg of the stool to keep your family upright, family education development.
By bringing your children's education home, you will be able to model your work ethic and family values as you overcome obstacles and challenges to build your business. Instead of learning facts to pass tests, your children can be watching and seeing the dedication it takes to build your business and the legacy you want to create for their future. They will be able to witness the struggles and joys, the wins and the losses, and learn from you how to persevere and grow in life.
Instead of waiting until you get successful to spend more time with your family, start with the end goal in mind and bring your family home. Instead of trying to repair your family after you reach success, let us help you start achieving your family goals from the outset. Learn to be successful with your family now, and no matter what happens in the future, they will be better prepared for life, especially after watching how you cared for and built not only a business, but a healthy, happy, and successful family.
We offer a wide range of educational services, including how to easily get started with homeschooling. Come visit us at vibrantfamilyeducation.com and let us show you how. And now, back to our guest. So something you said earlier about parents who during COVID started taking their kids out of school and that they didn't have time for that. That's actually kind of one of the myths that we break at Vibrant Family is it doesn't take school hours to educate your children at home. So once you get it set up, there's a lot fewer hours that you actually have to dedicate to the academic portion. But then you put so much more learning effort into the rest of what's going on that reinforces it. So for instance, math, you start talking about math while you're cooking because there's fractions, there's additions, there's even multiplication of fractions if you're making double portions.
recipes.
So that's why we do coaching of parents for homeschooling and how we get them started, because like for tutoring, it's like you can't just have a parent start tutoring. There has to be an expectation, a learning curve. So we do that for our homeschool parents to help them understand what's going on and to not make it like school. So because we're educating at home, so we're coming up with a different kind of a model. So we actually,
That's awesome.
Yeah, we work on a different kind of a model where we're not trying to replicate school at home. So
Well, right.
kind of,
And I mean, I'm sure what you guys have there is really awesome because everybody's not organized. Everybody can't figure out how to set this up. So it's not, taking up any of their time really. And I can see, I mean, I'm pretty organized, so I can definitely see that there's a way to do this. And like you just said, you kind of multitask it, or you incorporate it into your life as a parent. And I always say real life experiences are terrific. I mean, that's where you gain the skills that public school can't really touch. They, I'm big on that, talking about, I do a webinar for study skills because believe it or not, I mean, they're not going to teach that in school.
and really the foundation of all of that comes back to as well as reading, because if you can get the child to read and not just read to pass a test and find out what dangling participles are and all of that vocabulary, but if you can actually get them to start enjoying reading, then they can pull in the stuff that they love and start learning on their own. And so if they get behind in math and they can start reading about math and get caught up. If they get behind in social studies, they can start reading and learning on a different way on their own instead of just having to go through the facts. So reading is, for me, for what we talk about, is like one of the very, very key principles. And so how do you feel about that?
I agree. I just did and I can send it to you guys. It's part of the free gift, is a reading fluency free PDF that people can download. And it has strategies in there on how to do that. It has books that people can be reading and should be reading with their kids. And that's another thing. I mean, I think there's all this push about let them be independent, let them be independent. But I think up to a certain age, parents still have to be there and get involved. And homeschooling is
Absolutely.
perfect for that.
Yeah.
Got to be able to ask them questions, and you got to hear them read, because how else do you know there's a problem? You're just
Exactly.
assuming they're reading it and understanding it, and they're not. But reading is the fundamental of all this stuff, and the big push towards STEM is a little bit of a problem, forgive me, for anybody that wants to go into a STEM career, because the only way you're going to do well on an SAT and ACT and things like this are to be a little more balanced.
Yep.
And that's life in general, right? It's great that people want to be engineers because we need them, and there's a lot more female engineers out there. We just actually, speaking of reading, she got a perfect score of 34 on the ACT, or 36 on the ACT. 34 was her super score. She's she's going to go for aerospace engineering. She's in Texas.
Wow.
And so obviously she's got a pretty balanced brain there, because she's going into engineering. But look at this. She got a perfect score on and I'm sure that happened because she's been reading for a long time. And when I ask other kids, how did you do on the SAT, ACT, and you did it so balanced like that? The reading was close to your math score, and yet you're wanting to be a math or science person. They're like, I've been reading since I was young. I like to read. I love to read. And that's how you do it.
Yeah,
And
Exactly.
is that not what we do all day long with technology? I'm always looking at
Have
articles.
to be able to read.
How else are you going to learn? I mean,
yeah, here's a really funny thing about the SAT. There's actually 3 scores on the SAT. I didn't
15.
find out about that until I got to college. At least there was because there's the math, and then there's the verbal. And then when I took it, there was this thing called the TSWE. So
oh,
when I was a freshman going into college, I was trying to sign up for freshman English, and they said, no, you got a 53 on the test of standard written English, which is the TSWE. So it got me out of freshman English, and I got to step into higher level English classes right away because of that 3rd test score that I had never even heard of. But my
yeah, I
college
don't know
saw
that
that
they
as like,
do
you
that.
don't need to take freshman English.
Yeah, instead, and this is disappointing. They've a lot of them have removed the writing component, which I'm like, and they're not grading against kids with spelling errors and things like that now. They stopped doing that a few years ago here in Georgia. They don't want, because they know that's what will mark them down in their grades, right? On a rubric, is if they keep, because I know even I taught gifted kids, so the last several years, and where they're going to lose points, not that they're all great writers, they're not, but where they're going to lose the most points is in their spelling, punctuation, grammar. And I'm like, but they're not even marking them down for that. So
unfortunately, the school districts have kind of taken a stance of, oh, well, they'll most likely be doing it on a computer. The computer will check for all of those things, so it doesn't really matter if they can or they can't. And it's like, no, there's an issue with that. You have to have your basics down. You have to be able to take care of that stuff, because then the computer might be changing it. The spell check changes it to something that you didn't really mean. And if you aren't even aware of it.
And then how do we even know spell check is going to be around for many moons to go, years to go?
Yeah, exactly.
And then all these kids can't, and then they can't pass tests that they need if they go to med school. I mean, not that they're probably testing them on, but if they have to write something, like as a teacher, I had to write 2 different components on my, the big GACE test that I had to take for even my specialist degree.
Right.
When I got my EDS degree.
Yep.
So I did it with a broken hand. And that was not pleasant.
And your young kid that you said was in 8th grade and was 2 years behind in reading. That's actually a nationwide statistic right now.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Less than 50% of our graduating seniors can actually read at or above a 6th grade level. So the fact that you brought that up as
Yeah.
a kid in 8th grade who was 2 years behind already,
Yeah.
the parents didn't catch that. That could easily go for another 4 years, and they'll just keep pushing the kid through because they don't let the kids fail anymore, because it might hurt their self-esteem, as
Mhm.
if hurting their self-esteem is more damaging than not being able to read
Not being able to
properly.
be
So
confident.
Right.
which is going to hurt them more in the long run, a couple of years of self-esteem issues in high school or being able to read properly for the rest of their life?
Right. Yeah. I can't say I agree with everything the public school systems do, but
Right.
I mean, yeah, there's great stuff in
Yeah.
homeschooling, for sure. And you know, as a parent, you get to know, I mean, and if you have your own business, you know what's important. I'm writing to this day, I'm writing blogs, I'm writing podcast notes, I'm writing
Mhm.
the reading. Actually, my tutor did this reading PDF that I'm going to give you guys to offer to your audience.
Mhm.
She did it, but I also tweaked it along with my graphic assistant.
Yeah.
So we were tweaking things, and I'm always looking at quotes. And yeah, if I use AI, I'm still kind of redesigning. I'll say, oh, I'll take part of this and part of this and put it together and make it a different
Right.
quote or whatever. So yeah, you're always needing, and I even was questioning her. I said, I know fall is not supposed to be capitalized a season. I said, but I don't want people thinking fall is like tripping, falling.
Right.
So I'm like, go ahead and capitalize it, even though it's incorrect.
Exactly. Because there's a specific reason for doing it. Yeah. And most people, when they read that, they'll understand that, right? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and the entrepreneur model is also very important to us. And part of that is also how we teach the children and how the stuff that we set up, because entrepreneurs are always working on personal development and business development. If you get into it, then it's like, oh man, I need to know how to do this for my business. You try and get help, and it's like you end up having to take a class. And then it's like there's so many issues that go on up in your head with building your business that you end up doing lots of personal work.
Personally.
Yep.
And
Oh,
so
I love it.
so if you start doing that with your kids and teaching them that model while they're in
Younger.
school as an entrepreneur, you don't have to teach them entrepreneurship, but teach
Right.
them those learning skills that you are doing. And if
Mhm.
your kid is watching you while they're at home doing homeschooling and you're modeling, hey, I have to learn stuff too, and look at how I'm doing it, then that just brings the whole family into a unit where they get to learn and grow together.
And then
So
you're
that's
modeling it because you're there, so they
yeah.
see
Yeah.
So the
you
fact that
doing
you said that is like another one of our
Mhm.
core principles that we bring here. And so I thought that was really cool that you threw that in there.
it. And
Not,
then
not
I'll
that,
say I've written a resiliency blog. You guys might want to get that too,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I'm big about that's a skill. And that's
Mhm.
not a skill that's going to be taught in school or any
No.
school, not even probably private school, really. And so the only way you're really, I feel like that's going to have to go back to the household is
yeah.
teaching resiliency. And so
And resiliency is
I
your
wrote it for
ability
the
to,
NABO magazine. I wrote
Uh-huh.
it for them. It's a women's organization, National
Oh, cool.
Women's Organization. So I now have it as a blog, and actually I'm going to be talking about that topic here soon on my Lunch and Learn too.
Nice.
yeah, and
Yeah,
resiliency
and
is
by
your
the way, we're going to
ability
be
to,
talking
yeah.
to Christina on my Lunch and Learn on
Yes.
July 31st.
Yep. We are in summer of 2024, and yeah, there's lots of cool stuff happening back and forth between the episodes and the Lunch and Learn. Exactly. So Helen, is there anything that we haven't touched on today that you kind of wanted to make sure that you touched on around the tutoring or, the resiliency, helping families build that in their children?
Well, everybody has to fail in order to succeed. So what I see in kids is they give up too easily. And I
Mhm.
hate to see that. And then I hear parents who have young 20 something year olds, and we were having a problem, right, with that age group of 20 to 27 or so that are committing suicide. I mean, so resiliency, these kind of skills are extremely important, and you're not going to get it from a school building. You're not going to get it from a private school. You're going to get it from your home life, really. I mean, I think that's where we all learned it, probably.
Yep.
So I think what's happening is parents are getting too busy, and then, these other skills are kind of falling into the trash can. So I just want to, remind parents about that and really looking at the important skills to teach your children. I also want to say that we advocate. I have an advocacy program too, where we help advocate in the school system. If any of them are in a public school, we help with 504 programs, IEPs, all that. I understand 504s because I was a chair for 3 years on that. So sometimes I have to get people extended time, and I had to do that with the young lady I just talked about that was failing her French class and was a 4.0 student. So yeah, there's things, and plus we do the flip side where nowadays a lot of kids are advancing and they can do dual enrollment classes even in 9th and 10th grade and get credit.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, they may have to pay for that course, but the only way to not pay for that course is you got to take like an SAT, ACT, and score so high that now they'll waive that fee.
Right.
So we do a lot of academic planning as well. I believe, I believe in being very proactive, and that's what I like about what y'all said, because so we added academic planning, and we say you should really be planning as early as 6th grade. Because once you start getting into high school, it's too late to start changing the kind of subjects that you need to get. And counselors don't have time to do what we're doing, which is we give them an interest survey form, they fill it out. Then my tutor works with them on Zoom to plan out their entire rest of their years. We're about to do it with a rising 9th grader.
Nice.
But we say you should start as early as 6, because if we can detect other things that parents weren't thinking about, like a kid getting into a gifted program, we need to hurry up and do that.
Right.
Because it takes time to do that. And if they don't pass it, you might have one more chance. If they're a 7th grader, you're not going to do it after 8th and 9th grade, really.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that parents don't know about. And so, I say reach out if you have questions about even homeschooling, because like I said, my sister-in-law did that, and she did a hybrid kind of combination.
Exactly. Awesome.
My niece is going to be a realtor. She's just passed the Georgia State real estate exam too.
Excellent. Let our audience know where they can find you.
You can just go to info@dynamislearningacademy.com and send me an email there, or the website has a contact us. And so you go to dynamislearningacademy.com, and I'm sure that's going to be in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Will be in the show notes. Excellent.
And we're all over, we have the podcast, Smart Parents, Successful Students, and we're all over different social media platforms. So follow us there.
Thank you. Oh yeah. I've enjoyed this conversation. Kind of like real life is like, what is schools doing and not doing that good for our kids, not so good for our kids, really getting some educator points of view about how parents can really step forward and be proactive in their child's education. So this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'll say this, we all went to school and we all think we understand what school is like, but we really don't. Only educators really know what's going on in these buildings, to be honest with you. So yeah, reach out to any of us, because hey, we can tell you what's going on.
Yep. And I would like to also thank you for doing what you do. So there's so many teachers that see these problems and don't do anything about it. There are so many people who just talk about problems in society and what's going on and don't ever actually do anything about it. But you put yourself out there, you started your own company, which is a lot of work. It's a lot of problems. And so instead of just talking about the problems and seeing and not do anything, you put yourself out there. You are out there helping people. So in my opinion, you are a hero. You are doing wonderful work. You saw a problem and are helping other people navigate it. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for coming on our show. Thank you for being actually a part of the solution instead of just complaining about problems. And so thank you for being a hero.
No, thank you. That's very nice of you to say. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. All right, audience, as we're wrapping up today, remember to take all these gold nuggets that have been dropped along throughout this episode and don't just put them in your pocket. Take them out and use them. Be the proactive parent, be the involved parent, and really make sure you're looking at your child's education as a best fit for you and your family, getting the help where you need it, coaching, mentoring, tutoring, whatever it is to make your child happy, healthy, and successful. Until next time, we will talk to you later. Bye everybody.
Now.
Bye.
Hello and welcome to Bringing Education Home. I'm Herb.
And I'm Christina. And together we bring you experts